Just,
action.
we got about 2 more minutes, but go ahead and fire up the recorder. That way it won't accidentally get not remembered.
Everybody.
That's right.
Cheers.
Hi, Jan.
Hi.
Hey, you got a nice glass of wine.
Yeah.
Just finished pizza and salad and yeah, so glad to be here.
Nice.
Thank
It
you for
feels-
starting it early because Bob's things, I just couldn't stay awake till 9. Did they usually start? Couldn't do it.
I know, it was late, wasn't it? I've got my fruit fly trap I can toast you with.
I'll sneak out and get bourbon later.
This might look like a mojito, but it's just plain old soda water.
That's what they say.
But wait until afterwards. Sue, I went and I looked up the Carrol method that you mentioned. Didn't you mention the Carrol method?
I
Was
did.
it you?
I did.
Was that you, Lisa?
It might, I don't know if you saw that one specifically, but I did put up a link to his Facebook page, not Facebook, YouTube page.
Yeah.
Because it's a good place to start the whole process from.
Well, I did 2 links, but I did one link that you put up.
Okay.
And then there was somebody made a comment about the Carrol method, so I did a Google, and it was a little bit different. So
Mhm.
There's many ways of doing that.
That's the nice thing about this is you make it your own. You don't have to follow anybody else's rules. Once you get the idea, it's lovely. It's a lovely method, I think.
but what I looked at, it looks great. And I think it's just right. What I should have had 70 years ago.
Yeah, right. God bless this writer who is, I believe he's ADHD, and he had to come up with his own method of keeping track of his thoughts the way that they make sense to him, only him. And then all of a sudden it went off and it made like sense to so many other people, which is like stunning. And he didn't turn it into a money-making venture, which is like so lovely. He just sort of released it to the web, at the webmosphere, whatever you call it. And you know, if you are so inclined, you can buy one of his journals to use to follow it under his way of thinking, but you sure don't have to. That's so cool.
I downloaded something that was available for a one of these documents that did a sort of a concentrated method, an overview of his book, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. But if maybe I can share it on the group page.
We'll get you up and running. This is basically just, like I said, it's an LMNOP version. It's what makes sense to me. I offer it because you're artists, it will maybe click for you in a way that the other versions haven't. But I have spent a serious amount of time. Other people might consider it just wasting time, but I spent a serious amount of time on Pinterest and on a bunch of different Facebook. I keep saying that. YouTube, say it the right way. I've gone on to a lot of different YouTube videos to see, you know, a lot of people put a lot of energy into, I shouldn't say a lot of people, there are a lot of videos though that put a lot of energy into making it super photogenic and all pretty and polished, and I don't find usefulness in that, although I do decorate mine, but it's mostly just because that's the way my brain works. But it's not polished for, you know, major consumption.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about 5 minutes after the start time, so let's get it rolling.
Let's hit record.
Yeah, we already did. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. Well, hi, Lisa Marie here, also LMNOP. I am doing this tonight to just sort of share with you the way that my bullet journals have evolved. And I'll show you a journal that I did before I did bullet journal. I'm just going to show you a few pages from these things to sort of, you know, help you understand where I came from, what I was doing, what I've evolved into. If you can use any of it, that's great. If you want to, you know, it's sort of like it's a black hole if you jump into it, because there's so many different versions. But it's really important, I think, to watch Ryder's video first, his basic bullet journaling, to sort of understand the modularness of it, because he has, like, I think 4 different basic elements. One of them is the index, one is the future log, one is the monthly log, and one is the daily thing that you use. I've modified all of these so they don't really resemble his, but the spirit of what he's done is in there. So that's why I suggested that people look at that part first so they can know where I'm coming from on this stuff. Well, let's see. I will start off with sharing with you a page from, let's see, what year was this? What year was this? I think that, oh, this is a 2010 journal. And I wasn't using anything other than just a journal page that I just go blah into. And you'll notice that I sketch and I put a lot of thoughts into it, and it's kind of a catch-all of every single thing that goes on in my head. So this particular day I was out in the sunshine and I drew a sketch of the picnic table that I was at. And this was on the wall of a restaurant that I went to. And this is a bird that was at the picnic place that I said, and he's saying, "This is my post. There are many like it, but this one is mine." So basically what I was doing at that point was, you know, I'd put the date and the day, and then put a random thought of whatever was interesting from that day. Because I feel like if I don't write something about a day, it's like the day didn't happen. So even like a really boring day, something interesting will happen. I will use them to write, you know, addresses down. This is the Como Conservatory address. I wrote down my bank balance to keep me, keep my brain going. I picked up a sticker from a march that I was at. I drew some people that I was at. So you can see that I use my journals as sort of a catch-all, and that is good and bad because sometimes it gets jumbly. So we'll put that over here. And now I will flip forward to, I've started into the Ryder attempting. So wait a minute, this is, hang on, wrong page. Okay, here we go. So with this one, I'm doing roughly the same thing where I'm keeping, like, I'm using I'm kicking the tires on some of his icons, like to keep track of things and using arrows for a very specific reason. I used this part here for, this is what I'm going to do today. And I use a separate little panel all the way down in this journal to sort of, this is what you need to do today, and this is what happens today as it's happening. So it's kind of a running thought process of catching my thoughts. So I have my my secretary is kind of what I think of it as. Here's some things that you need to remember to do today. By the way, it's Friday, it's March 30th, and I'm using all these different, hang on a second, where did I put that at? Shoot, where did it go? Oh, here it is. So I'm using, he uses a lot, hang on a second, I'm caught on to something here. Okay, he uses very specific icons to help him figure things out. One is the square or a 0 with an X through it. One is a square. One is a exclamation point. There's an arrow that goes like this for future. There's an arrow that goes like that for the past to transfer things to different journals or different pages, to like his future journal and his monthly and his weekly. He'll do things like he's trying to keep track of where things are going in his thought process. So I just sat down one day, and is that not focusing? Okay, there it is. I sat down one day and I wrote down a bunch of icons that made sense to me. And I think that that's a really important place as a jumping off place for you and your brain, because there are certain things that he uses that make sense to him. But I think this is such a personal journaling system that, you know, sit down and write down a few icons that make sense to you as you go through your thinking. Like a task can be a bullet. He did that. And an action can be a circle or a square. That's fine. I put a to-do as a circle, and I put a task as an X. I wish this thing would quit focusing. And then I started brainstorming. I'm like, well, I could use a triangle, a crossed out triangle, a filled in triangle. This is maybe an email. You can see some music that I would listen to or something. This is money. Why is it doing that focus thing? I'm sorry. Hang on, let me try something a little bit better lit. Maybe it'll stop doing that. Maybe. AM routine is a little sunshine thing, a little book for reading. Coffee for like a coffee date, that kind of stuff. So I did a brainstorming session to try and find what icons made sense in my brain for me and the way I think. Let's see, I also pulled up last year's journal, and this is the way I had been doing my journals up until about a month ago. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, very finite space. And then this is what you're going to go ahead and do today. And then if and when I used the space or didn't, I would doodle like a madman in it. But let's see here if I can find a good page. Again, these are catch-alls. So I will put stickers in them. I will put random thoughts. Journaling is life. This was from a meditation that I took with a guy over the internet. But again, the same layout, which is, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and this is what you're supposed to remember. And then a second page for random things that came up that I wanted to remember. And it didn't feel integrated enough. It felt like there was two things going on. And then also, if there's so much going on in this week, I would get frustrated because next week is on this page. And I've already run out of room if this was a really complicated, busy week. So I'm going to move forward to what I am doing now. And I believe this is called the rolling approach, the rolling approach. So one of the elements that I use nowadays is the night before, I will put this was Sunday and the date, and I use this icon and color scheme because it catches my eye and it helps me a lot. And I will do an empty square to tell me that it needs to be done, and I color it in because it helps me visually. And then if I have done it, I fill in the square because that tells me that I don't have to focus on that one anymore. I will also do like one of these if I'm forwarding it to something. And I'm not really taking difficulty from only getting 50% of my things accomplished on a day. I'm not punitive about, I load up my beginning of my day with a lot of optimism. And then I run out of energy and then I kind of crap out. But it's nice for me this way, because then it keeps track of what I plan to do that day, what I could do that day, the options that I have, and the have-tos. And one of the other things that I do on, and he uses a thing called like a weekly layout. What I have done is I will take a little piece of grid paper and, hey, stay there. Don't be a jerk, stay there. And I'll do the Sunday through Monday, because that's how I envision my days. And then I will populate it on usually Sunday night with all of the things that I plan on doing that week. And taking half a step back here, where I'm getting this information from, for me personally, I use my my Google Calendar in my phone to keep track of future stuff. I don't find that I work well with the future stuff being on paper form, because I'll forget to write stuff down that way. So I almost always have my phone on me in some fashion, so I can write down a note saying on the 5th of October I have to do yada yada in that date. So at the beginning of the week, which is Sunday, I will sit down, I will look at random notes that I have from last week, I will look at my calendar from Google Calendar, and I will populate this thing. And I will like put little dots, little intent dots on each day that I plan on doing something. Hang on, I'm shaking here. So as the day goes by, I either do or don't accomplish it, of course. So I'll cross off the day. So Sunday's done, so I cross Sunday off, and I'll go down the list and I'll say, okay, this one I actually accomplished. So I black out the circle. And this one I did not accomplish, so I put a kind of a no symbol through it. And that helps me understand, it helps me understand where I am and where I'm not hitting the mark for my expectations. Moving on to like, this here is the beginning of the day. So I've got video and post, I've got artist wave 3 pages, resurface my work table, message my friend Sam, set up the week, which I did, and ask Roz to postcard. And then as I come across things throughout that day, I came across a video that talked about the instant gratification monkey. So I wrote him in there because that really strikes a nerve with me and my goofy little brain. And then I wrote down the price of everything because it's a video I wanted to see. And then this was from a video that that Heidi had shared with us, and it was to make a mark immediately transforms that surface, and that spoke to me that day. So that was the end of the day, and then before I went to bed, I would write down the next day. And so I've got these little bullets that I'm trying to hit for the day. And then as the day goes on, I went to a meeting and I wrote down some things and reminders, because I try to remind myself to be a decent human being. That's kind of how I lay out my journal at this point. And it still has infinite room for what I need to do, because last year's journal only gave me, this much for a day. And some days I don't really do anything. Like, where was it last week? Here we go. This was a day that didn't happen really, because I didn't write anything, but whatever. And then, so but you know, I only needed like this much space for that day, whereas this day I used like this super sizable space. And this journal has this journal page, this calendar thing. I put double sticky tape on it, and I set up, I've got like a whole mess of these things set up beforehand. I just sit down and do a whole bunch of them at the same time, and then put them in the little pocket in the back of my book. And I keep a calendar so that I know that, you know, the date starts on such and such number and ends on such and such. And so that is the way that I am approaching things at this point. So I'm doing a little bit both of art journaling in it. I'm doing a little bit of mind catch-all brain dump stuff. I'm doing like keeping track of things, reminders to myself to not forget stuff. One of the other things I had said earlier when we did the morning meeting on Wednesday is I have a brain injury. So one of the things that I have to do is I have to not rely on my memory, because for me, my thinker works fine, but my memory is a sieve. It just doesn't work. So, oh, there was another thing that I was going to tell you about. Going off of, sorry, I'm not very organized, but I'm trying. Going off of Ryder's approach to a future log, like he has an entire page where he does, this is October and these are all the days and this is what's going to happen on that day. I found that for me, the essence was important, but not the way he was presenting it. So what I had done, this is from last year, I did 12 of these little Post-it notes. You can make them as big or as small as you want. And I would, as something would come up, I'd be like, oh, I need to remember on the 18th, whatever that stood for. I don't remember what it stood for right now, but so I would have a stack of these sticking in the back of my journal on the back page. And if I needed to remember something in July, I would just write down on the 5th, Folklorama. Maybe I will go to it, maybe I won't, but it's there. And I will remember it. Writing it down in like, you know, January, I wouldn't necessarily remember it. The nice thing about doing it this way is if you run out of space on this little thing or something gets spilled on it, you rip it out, you get another Post-it and you make it clean and pretty again. And if you decide to throw your journal, you know, in the corner and start over in another journal like I did last month, all I have to do is yank these guys out, put it in the next journal, and it's already up and running that way. So that helped me quite a bit. Let's see, he talks about, I don't do index. I don't find it important. I will put ticks on certain pages, like if I need to remember that a certain thing is on this page, I'll put like a little tick on that corner to help me remember it. The future log, again, I use these little Post-it notes, and they vary in sizes. Like some months I have like nothing important to happen. There hasn't been much to do for that part of it for this year because COVID, we're not really out and about. So I haven't really had to use that specifically, but I pulled out my one from last year for that. The monthly, like I said, I keep it in the phone and it's always on me. And then the daily is a rolling layout versus a lot of people like structure for their page. Like they will have the week of da 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 da, and they'll have Monday, and this is the amount of space, and Tuesday, and this is the amount of space. And I've personally found that that is crampy for me. I don't color inside the lines well. Go figure. I just recently found out about this rolling thing, and I was like, that's what I've been doing. There's a name for it. I love it. And so when I started my new one this year, I decided that I was going to go back to something that felt absolutely comfortable, because in my opinion, a journal is a place where I am absolutely comfortable. I can't do it for somebody else. It's like this safe space for my brain. And that's why I draw in it, I color in it. Some people use stickers. I have an entire bag of colored pens that I am using. Even one of these goofy things with like 6 different colors in it, back from when I was, it harkens back to when I was in grade school. And yeah, that's what I do. I've used in the past, I've used barn doors, if you've ever heard of those. It can be helpful if you need something like that, but I used it for a while and it just didn't catch for me. So I guess that was like a 20-minute quickie version of what I'm doing. So we can open the gallery. Anybody have any questions? Oh, barn doors. Heidi says, what are barn doors? Okay. Well, let's say that I have, let's see here, let me flip it around. Let's say this is the page that I'm going to be working on for the week. Hang on, my cord is stuck again. A barn door would be something that I would tape to the outside of it, and then I would fold it under. Not like this sticky stuff, but let's pretend this is just a regular piece of paper. So I'd put it on here and I'd tape it, tag it in here and here, and then I would fold it in. And so when I would close my book, it would be protected. And I used the barn door method actually when I very, very first started with the Ryder method, because I was using his logo key as a barn door to help me remember what was it, that thing that I was trying to remember? What's the future sign for the whatever? And so I would flip it out. I would paste it at the very beginning of my journal. And as I flip it out, I can look at it from week 1 or week 15. And it's always easily available no matter which week I'm in. Whereas if it's in a page, you're only going to see it during that week. Does that make sense? Anybody? Bueller? You guys don't have to be muted. I don't mind. kind of feel like I'm talking to myself.
The barn doors totally make sense.
Oh, good. Yeah. And
Oh, yeah.
and like I said, you can do, once you get like a couple of these terminology things, jumping into YouTube or Pinterest, there is so many ideas that people have and present as this is the best way to do it. It's like, well, it's a different way to do it. Doesn't work for me, but then if I were to do the same thing and present this as a video of authority, which it isn't, it's just what makes sense to me. So anything I can help you with thoughts like random whatevers?
You do a habit tracker?
I have done those before.
What is a habit tracker?
Well, if you're trying to add something that you're not normally doing, some people will use an entire page and they will use different icons to say, yes, I did it, or no, I didn't do it on this day.
Okay.
And what I've personally started doing is I incorporated it into that little, hang on, flip it again. This thing that I'm using, if you'll notice, walk is right here.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
I'm keeping track of whether I am or am not going on walks on any given day. And that for me is enough of a tracker rather than having one page devoted to it.
Yeah.
It is possible to do it both ways. This for me just keeps it on the page that I'm working on for that week.
So that you keep it on the week's page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I can always refer back to it.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
Mhm. No, that's great because right now I have like a different journal for like tracking my blood sugar, and I've got a notebook from 35-year career in the oil and gas industry of trying to keep track of all the phone calls and things like that. And then I've got my sketchbook, and so it's interesting to see how you've incorporated all of this into one journal, and where you can refer back to things. So I really like this concept. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I've been doing the bullet journal for 4 years, give or take.
Yeah.
And I have come to find out that if I don't do some type of a journal, I lose track of every and anything. I just went through like 2 months ago, I went through a kind of a growing pains stage where I'm like, I'm not going to do any journaling, blah, blah, blah. And I tell you, I can't tell you anything that happened that month. I can't tell you if I hit any goals. It's lost to me now. So I kind of took a step back and looked at myself and said, knock it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stop arguing with yourself. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, and not journaling is a not work scenario. So I'm back into it, and I love these journals. I don't know why I do that to myself, because it's an offload of like all of the silly that I can pull up, because I sometimes I'll even like write lists of the names for my cats, like their actual name, but then the nicknames that I give them that day. And that a year later you go back and read that, and it gives.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of like a diary. It's like a grown-up version of a diary where you're keeping track of all your hopes and dreams and what you've done and what you need to do, and I think that's really cool. Yeah.
yeah.
So that thought leads into the question that I keep wondering about. What are your plans or your hopes for these journals in the future? You've been doing it for years now, and do you keep them hidden? I mean, you showed us some of your pages, right? And do you keep them hidden away? Do you hope that somebody will read them down the road? Do you think that as 20 years from now, you'll be poring over your own journal? What do you think?
I actually use them as a resource. I actively use them as a resource right now in my life. When I started this new journal a few weeks back, I think it's like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, I wanted to populate it with things that were inspirational isn't quite the right word, but uplifting. And so I went through old journals, flipping. There were pages where things were a year ago, my mother died, so things were heavy. And I flipped through other pages, and it was like, that was a decent day, and I felt really good. And I drew this little icon. And so I took that icon and I put it on the first page of this new journal as sort of a heart warmer for myself. I do things like that. I really like, what would you call it? Kind of priming the pump of a new journal with old journal thoughts. Like a blank journal is just, it's blank. So if I take things from old journals that were warm and happy and cheerful and light, and I start the new journal with like 2 or 3 pages of oh, remember these things, or oh, don't forget these things, or this helped you when you did this. If I start a journal that way, I can always flip back to the first couple of pages if I'm having a particularly rough week, and it'll remind me that whatever the cloud is happening right now, the cloud will pass. And this is how I've gotten through the rough parts. And, you know, I use my journals to help me, They are catch-alls for my daily, you know, flotsam and jetsam, but they're here basically to help me get through this thing called life, as Prince would say. And I use them like these goofy little drawings that I do. I will use those as a seed for like a future drawing, like a real drawing, because my mind is really relaxed when I'm doing something in these kind of journals. Like there's no expectation about, I didn't get that line right. I didn't, you know, I scribble this out. I do the same thing over here, just a little bit different. And so it's a real, it's a good place to just catch my, my creative little seeds. And then I can take them to someplace more grown up, appropriate, polished, whatever, to help me. Because I'll get dry spells when I'm doing art stuff, and I'll sit down at my desk and I'll be like, I have no idea what to do today.
Mhm.
Great. Now what? And so I'll just pull out an old journal and I'll start flipping through it, and I'll be like, yeah, do that. And then it just jump starts my brain.
I was going to say, and it's in a structure. It's not on a random piece of paper that might be in your dining room. You know, the thing you made
Yeah.
is in a place. It's not somewhere in your house.
Yeah.
I find that very helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
I'm pasting
linear-
things in these journals left, right, and center. I'll paste a business card in there. I will paint a piece of a napkin that I ripped off of something to put it in there. It's a catch-all.
And it's in a linear, you know, page by page, breadcrumbs. It's breadcrumbs.
Yes, you and I were talking about that. Because my mind doesn't necessarily file things the way a quote unquote normal mind would. I already told Heidi this one, so I'll take a pause and tell you guys. After I had my head injury, I fought so hard against not being able to retain details. Like I'm supposed to remember blah, blah, and blah, blah day. And I made a phone call to the Brain Injury Alliance after a certain period of time. And the lady on the other end gave me such a heartfelt helper. She said, a normal person, with quotations, normal, a normal person, let's say they want to remember this thing, this detail in their life. So in their head, they walk into the house that their memories are kept in. They walked into the room that they want to keep it in. They walk up to the file cabinet. They pull the drawer open. They open the folder and they drop that memory in there, and it's filed so that they can find their way back to it. She said for somebody who's got a head injury, like myself, not everybody, but like myself, she said, you will have this thing that you want to remember. You'll go into the house, you'll walk into the auditorium, and you fling it. And it's not that it's gone. It might be the first thing you pick up. It might be the 1,000th thing that you pick up.
Yeah.
And so, and when she said that, I was like, oh my God, somebody understands. Doing a journal like this for me, it catches all the breadcrumbs. It helps me get back to the place where that's why I take things out of my head and I put them down in these books so that I don't have to rely on this, because this is my weakest link.
So it helps give you a prompt, right? So it helps prompt your memory. Yes.
Yes, because that little grid thing, when I set it down each week, it's like, on Thursday, I want to remember that the Minneapolis Institute of Art is having a Zoom, and it's at 6 p.m. So I put it on the Thursday, a little circle with the time next to it. And then when I write down Wednesday night stuff for Thursday, I take it off of that little grid and I put it into the daily
Yeah.
for the next day. And then it helps me remember to not lose the thought. I
Yeah.
still have to use alarms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had an alarm to remember to not forget to show up tonight, because that would have been horrifying. Throw a party and I don't come. But yeah, I use all the tools I can to keep me on task, because I need them. I need them. I can't let my ego run the show and say, you should just remember. It's like, whatever, shut up.
And you don't have all
Yeah,
the stress of always constantly thinking, what have I forgotten? What have I forgotten? What have I forgotten?
Yes.
So you don't
I have
that.
been, I will sometimes carry these books with me when I'm out in the world, but almost always, I will carry at least a Post-it note, a pack of them in my pocket, and I will keep a pen in there, and I will offload the thoughts as they happen. And then I will come back and populate either my calendar or my daily journal, or just paste the Post-it note in there. I don't rely on this, because 10 minutes from now, when something changes, boop, gone. What was that thing I wanted? What was that thing I wanted to remember? Yeah, whatever.
You
You're
know,
not the
I
only-
wish,
You're not the only one that
yeah,
that has that. And let me tell you, I haven't had a brain injury, but I use Post-it notes a lot. And
yeah.
if I get focused on something, I lose all track of time. So yeah, those alarms are great on your
Yep.
phone.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just want to say, where were you 25 years ago, Lisa Marie?
My
I
brain injury happened in 1990. So
yeah,
I was recovering.
Mine was 1994, I think. The year I turned 50. So yeah, 1994. But you know, the other thing about remembering things, and when you forget things and forget that you're supposed to have done something for somebody or whatever, there's all that guilt that packs on you too. Like, I should have remembered that. Why didn't I remember that?
Mhm.
And
This
I
takes,
just never have thought of doing something like this, and it would have been wonderful for me.
yeah, this takes the weaponization out of all of it. There's no, at this point, it's only a reflection of how well I organize myself, not how well I remember.
Mhm.
And organizing, I can do that. And I can do that like for 30 seconds here and 5 minutes there and an hour there. And I can do it. And the thing about Ryder's system is it's modular. And that's the part that I absolutely adore, is that it is modular. You take a little piece here, you put it with this piece, and you do this piece. And some people like to have their piece shaped in this kind of way, but you don't have to. You don't have to do it anyway, other than what makes sense to, your noodle.
There's a personal logic to it.
Yes.
It's how you think, and you take that and put it onto paper. I know when I was looking at the YouTube piece, one of the things that I thought, where he did, I think it was monthly, yes, he put the month at the top and then all the days down the side. And that was the one thing that I thought, wait a minute, my days don't work that way. I'll have on the second, maybe I'll have 3 or 4 things that I have to do, then maybe nothing that I have to do until the 15th.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing, I need to readjust to suit my life.
Yeah, and if I rewind a little bit back to this particular approach,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the future, it doesn't have to be chronological.
Yeah.
Right? Because it isn't happening yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the 5th, I have the 27th, I have the 26th. I have all these random dates happening, but it's the future, so it doesn't have to be chronological.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when I'm getting close to that date, when it's next week, then I order it.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in an order. But until until it's next week, it doesn't matter what order it's in, just so long as it's caught, just so long as I do a catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
So you could
And
almost,
like I said, if this gets coffee dumped on it or whatever, rip it out, rewrite it. Who cares?
you could almost use the barn door method for that as well.
Yeah. If you want your pages to be super clean and super nice and whatever, use a barn door. They're fabulous. I've also seen people use, hang on, I'll have to show this to you visually because I haven't done it myself, but they will have like this much be their Monday through Saturday. And they'll use 2 or 3 pages for that. But instead of this, they will do a header of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they will cut out a slice of like 4 or 5 pages. So it's kind of a barn door, but this page, I'll flip it, but it won't be covered because this is cut off. So that's another way to approach a different way of presenting the information in your book for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what size are your books?
This one that I'm using now is like a 5 by 9-ish. I have, when I was here, let's do this one. My Ephemera Whisper, which is the name that I gave this one. This one is like a 4 by 6. I like books that fit into my pocket. If it's a big monster, it isn't going to fit in my pocket, so that makes me unhappy.
Yeah, I think this is probably closer to like a 5 by 10.
Yeah, well, I've also, at the beginning of the week, after I've made my little grid with the dates and stuff on it, I will take a photograph of that, have it in my phone, so that if I don't have my book on me, if I'm away from my desk or out and about, I can go, wait a minute, you want to have a phone date with me on Tuesday? Hang on a second, I'll pull up my photos. I'll look at the list and go, oh, I have a date on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, but I can talk to you for 5 o'clock. How's that sound? Again, using the tools to the best that I have it available to me, not relying on my memory. So that's a helpful one too.
That's a really good idea because I have a full size one,
Yeah.
and I use it. I mean, it's very used, but that idea of, because I don't use the Google Calendar, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to help.
Anything.
Anything.
Lisa, oh, I see Margaret's got a question here. How many pages do you find works?
How many
60
pages? How many pages in what sense?
Sorry, how many pages in the book total? Like 60 pages, or you just buy whatever's on the shelf?
I just bought the one that I'm using right now. This is kind of like a little joke with myself. I bought here. Let me close it up for you. It's a moleskin that was a limited edition, but it's a 2018 regular calendar for moleskin. But I loved the cover. So what I did was I whited out all of their information.
Perfect.
So I'm recycling.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
recycling.
Perfect.
I'm being a good little recycler. I've whited out all these Monday through Fridays, and It's the same book
Lovely.
as I had last year, almost exactly, but I'm not limited again by these little nuggets of like, you have to color inside the lines, because I don't do that very well.
That's one of the
Okay,
things.
okay. So what is it about? Okay, you said you like the cover, but
Mhm.
what is it about these moleskins that you would go to the trouble of going and writing out every damn date, what through the whole thing?
It
Why?
was
Okay,
Dr.
you could just get
Seuss.
a blank.
It was Dr.
Okay,
Seuss.
what?
It was because it was a Dr. Seuss cover. That's what did it for me. Another way that I could have approached it was to
Fair
buy
enough.
this and to put a bunch of blank pages in there and make a book out of it. But I was like, I had some downtime. I was watching TV with a little whiteout pen, whatever, in between commercials, I would just like do a page and let it dry. I mean, I did it over a few weeks. I have downtime.
And moleskins have
Yeah.
a beautiful vellum finish to their pages, don't they?
They have nice pages. I have put watercolor on them,
Yep.
not watery watercolor, but like lightly wetted watercolor. They do pencil, they do pen. They're good for, they're light enough to like stick things to, and the book doesn't get that thick.
So just
Like,
pretend I don't know what was meant by they have nice vellum pages. Like, of course I know. But if I didn't, how would you say what the fuck? Sorry, how would you explain what you were just meant by they have nice vellum pages? Sorry, that wasn't you, LMNOP. I think that I'm not in the gallery. I don't know who said that.
well, this is the kind of paper that this thing has. It's fairly light. If you use the wrong kind of marker, it can bleed through. So I've learned which markers to not use in these books. But if I use just like this page in particular, I colored a lot of stuff on it, and most of it did not bleed through. It just depended on which marker I use.
For now,
With me, when it bleeds through, I'll take cheap craft paint and color the opposite side.
Yes, done that too.
It's artsy.
Yeah, so these are my journals. These are a reflection of the catacombs in between my ears. I went to the Minneapolis Institute of Art that day, and we physically made stamps. And so I pasted the page that I had made that day. And then I went over here. I went to a seminar, which I wrote all my notes on Post-it notes, and I have them stacked in here. And it happened the week of January something. And then I turn the page and I'm on to the next week. And it's a nice little coloring book for me when I'm bored.
Yeah.
In addition to that, do you have a regular writing journal? And I know
No.
you do visual journals.
No.
So this is your everything.
Yeah, other than I've recently started doing Artist Way 3 pages a morning. And technically I could put it in here. I just choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
I've chosen, because I think of that as like a very disposable book. This was one of our meetings, one of our Wednesday meetings that I did a page.
Cool.
You go through more than one book, well, not a year, but I mean like one book every so many months, or how long does a book generally last you? I'm just curious because you're using like a diary style journal that you can buy at the store.
The moleskin that I'm using is a 1.5 year journal. And so it has more than 12 months worth of stuff for pages. And then it also has like random other stuff that they stick in their books. And so there's a lot of extra pages, more than, I don't know, that's kind of why I like this kind of a journal, because of the hardcover and because it has more than 52 weeks worth of pages.
Okay, so you're using like a proper journal. I was just asking because I've seen a bunch of people that have bullet journal videos, and they buy the lectern or
Sure.
Lickstrom, whatever they're called,
Sure.
and they go in and they like put the calendar in, and they put the this and the that and the what, and I'm like, oh my God, like just buy a journal that's already
Yeah.
done, you know? So
Yeah.
like that's sort of semi done anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and this particular year was, I mean, you can't really see it, but if you look up really close, you can see there's dots here. There's little square dots to help you sort of line things up if you want to. And then you step back and it disappears. That's a nice journal to have as a rolling journal. And that's sort of like a lectern, however you say that word. So for a while I was doing, this was another modular thing that I pulled out of one of the YouTube videos, I think, where they were saying, track yourself by the hours of the day. And I was doing that for a while. So I would write an arrow to, this is 8 a.m. George went to jury duty that day at 10 a.m., get the car and drive to Robbinsdale. So I would like, I kind of modularized that kind of a thing. And I had it like on double sticky tape. So I'd lay down the thing the night before. And on really busy days, I have some set up so that I can throw them into the next journal if I need it that day. So that's, you know, if you're tracking things hourly, that can be helpful. And you don't have to buy a new journal. You throw a modular unit in for that week or month or whatever your crazy is. And then the next month, everything's boring, you know, so you don't need it anymore.
This is another thing. Sometimes if a day is nuts, at a coffee break, I'll write down what I did, because you get guilty. If you have an empty thing, you go, oh, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Instead of a to-do, it's what I did.
Yes.
You have a list of dids.
This is I went to the Cure came, and I went to their concert, and I sat in the top row, and I sketched while their music was playing, and I wrote myself a little play-by list, and then I pasted it into each page of, like for 5 weeks, I pasted it into the left-hand side because I got so much happiness out of it. So for 5 or 6 weeks, it was there to remind me that I had gone to see Robert Smith sing to me and a bunch of strangers, but he was singing to me specifically. Just want to say that out loud. So, yeah, it's kind of a catch-all.
It's so beautiful in so many ways. It's like the ultimate self-care as well, you know, like you're like, we talked about this on, I can't remember who said that on Wednesday, like you become the person you need, and this becomes what you need, and only you know what you need and how you need it. So
I need a secretary.
Yeah.
But a loving, creative, quirky, edgy secretary that loves Dr. Seuss.
And has a really dark sense of humor.
What do you pay?
I find it ironic that you whited out the dates, where I have seen where they make the rows of the months and all that. And that makes my brain wackadoodle, because I thought, no, that's rows, or like how many times I brushed my teeth, I flossed my teeth, I took my vitamin E. And I've learned, I've done the opposite. I would have, so I would want to walk 45 minutes every day or do my daily mandala. I would do either on the day, or I did a thing where it says goals, and I'd have 7 blocks. And so you'd do 1 block, and then or every week you'd have your delayed gratification. And now I have such a high habit, I don't do those anymore. I have a little calendar, so I've walked or exercised 45 minutes every day. So I just have this continual snake, and then to the next month snake. But parts of me don't have the enjoyment of going, oh, you made your mandala every day, because I just make my mandala every day. So you have to decide what makes your heart feel joy on your page as far as being responsible to your journal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like that I am different this week than I was last week, and my journal reflects that. It's not like I'm trying to hammer myself into, you know, square peg, round hole, because each week is a completely different thing to me. I don't know about anybody else. Maybe some people that works for it, but it simply doesn't work for me, and it makes me very unhappy, and it makes me put my journal on a shelf and not touch it. And that's the worst thing I can do for me.
Are you pretty good to habitually start? When do you, like Saturday night or Sunday morning, do you grid out your start of your week?
This thing?
Well, I'm just saying with me, if I don't make my week on Sunday or Monday, by Thursday I go, oh damn, my week is gone. If I build my week right away, I'm good. If I forget, then I slough. So I was just wondering, when do you say, Lisa, time to build my week?
Sunday night. Yeah, because the week will consist of everything that I spout off into the pages all the way up till Saturday. And if Sunday through Saturday takes 1 page, or if it takes 7 pages, because of the way that I have it laid out, it simply doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a negative consequence if I do it this way, because the next time I turn the page, that's when Sunday starts. That's when the week starts.
So you're using this for not only like to motivate yourself and to inspire yourself, you're using it for goal setting, and you're using it for planting creative seeds and for keeping track of things that you need to remember. So it sounds great, because I think goal setting is a key thing. If you don't have it in your head, a creative visualization of what you want to accomplish and when you want to accomplish it, you're right, it just kind of floats along, and next thing you know, 3 weeks have passed and you haven't done what you want to do.
I have really good intentions.
Yeah.
It's my follow through.
Yeah.
It's my follow through. And so this is like, it's my secretary, it's my best friend, it's my playmate, it's my coloring book. It's all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time for me to figure out a system that fit like a glove. And the one that I'm using right now, like, I don't have any sort of pinchy areas where it's like it's going against my grain.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you to find the one that works for you too, because once you find it, oh, oh, the angels sing.
Yeah.
Yours is so much more, I'll say, kind to the eye, because these gritty ones to me go like, oh, you're in the army now.
Yeah.
You must check off your daily things or get guilty. So yours is a river of Lisa.
For good or worse.
Like a canoe journal.
Yeah.
You're paddling down your river.
It's called a rolling journal.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's so cool, because if you open the kind of journal that you would like go to, I don't know, pick a word, Barnes and Noble, pull one off the shelf, 7 pages into the future is 7 weeks into the future. And that to me is too structured. Rolling on the river. Nice, Margaret. Rolling. I'll do my Tina Turner now.
You do that. Oh my gosh. I used to play guitar badly to that. Yes.
There's a flow to it. I think that's the whole thing. And I don't mean to use a pun on the river, but there is a flow that everything isn't in blocks.
It's judgmental. It's not judgmental. The other ones we are judgmental. It's bullety, like, oh, you're aiming your gun. No, I'm just riffing. But yours is life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some days I have nothing going on, and other days it's just like everything opens up and the wheels come off.
Right. I know what that's like.
Right? And then a year from now, I can go back and spend time with, you know, the different things like I not to bring it down, but in last year's journal when Mom left, there were times when I had tilt written on my forehead. I simply couldn't process what was happening. But I have since spent some time with the journals from then, and if I hadn't done that, I would have lost the opportunity to have a gift to myself for myself, because I did like drawings next to my mom as she was like laying in the bed. I don't know. I kind of think I shared some of those on the page, the Up for a Challenge page, but they were like, it was the only way I knew how to deal with the moment, was to draw. And now that I've like gotten my normalness back, I can go back and spend time with those moments, drawings, the moment that the drawing happened, and I can befriend the moment. Whereas at the time it was just too much. It was way too much. So I don't know. These guys are my friends. I would never, I've heard of people like throwing out their journals or burning their journals, and I'm like horrified. These are my buddies. I just have had to figure out a language to make them more useful, more efficient, more helpful to me.
It is true about writing or making a mark every day. For me, that way. I'm not saying I have a brain injury, but my brain, if I don't note it, that day is gone. It's just gone forever.
Oh, I just found one of my pages. This day, I went to Minneapolis and I rode my bike on the train, and I went and had lunch at a Mexican restaurant. So this is the image that was on their front placard, and this is me sitting at the coffee table, and I drew a picture of my mountain bike, and there's a little drop of coffee. and it brings me back to that moment, and I'm there again. And that's lovely. That restaurant doesn't even exist anymore. It's gone.
But when you see these professional bullet journals, yours is so much more comfy. So that's where you all, I would say, if you are not familiar, do go look into different YouTube videos, but truly do what Lisa said and do what works for you. We're old, we can do what we want. Because other ones are, you know, and the YouTube girls are, and I'm going to draw my flower this way, and all the handwriting is exactly that weird script that makes me angry. I don't know why that bullet journal script makes me mad. Even like on menus, I can't stand it, and I like fonts. It's just bizarre. But yeah, absolutely make it your friend.
Yeah.
I like
And the thing is, it evolves as you evolve. So you discover what you need as you go. So what works 1 week, you know, you just, if it didn't work quite, you just tweak it a bit and you do it a bit differently. So, I mean, I look at mine from when I first started, and I think it probably is about 4 years ago. And it was, I didn't know, again, I'm big on the grid paper. I love the grid. But I didn't know what I was going to track, and I did kind of the Ryder Carrol approach, but I also just you know, I had gratitude. I had a little tracking thing when I took my vitamins and walked my dog, and then once I kind of did it, I went, yeah, I can track it if I want to, but I don't think I want to anymore. So it got, as I went on, I'd go, okay, I don't need to track anymore, but now I need to do whatever. But for me, I just keep adding pages to it because I don't want it to go away. Like I just
I
have
know.
one book. I just
know.
have one book and I still have, 100 pages left. So I got another year to go.
When did that start, Heidi?
I'm not sure because I didn't put the year, and 2019. I think probably 2015, 16. This is probably the
Oh,
fifth,
wonderful.
going in the 5th year. And I actually, for me, an index works because I've got blog ideas, I've got interviews I prepared for, I've got bios that I've written, I've got workshops that I've taken. So then I can find it and I don't have to think of a different section. I just turn the page and start writing. So again, I just had to number my pages.
I think I would
Heidi.
rather do an index on my computer so that I could search it.
There you go. That's a good way to do it too.
So
Yeah, on a spreadsheet.
yeah, because if I have an index in the book, if it's not in order or alphabetical order or whatever, I can't deal with that. I need to be able to search something or be able to go directly to it like in alphabetical order. So even when I'm listing my paintings for a show or something like that, I have to be able to search through, be able to manipulate the data, and but I don't want to be restricted in my journal that way. So having it on a spreadsheet would give me that little bit of control that I think I need, and still give me the freedom of being able to do what I want in the journal.
And you can print it off. You could print it off and stick it in the journal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we can have the best of both worlds. We can have digital and analog.
Yeah.
We can do that now. And that's maybe something, 25 years ago when I got hit in the head wasn't an option because we didn't have computers back then in the house,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Ryder Carrol has an app or something that you take
Yes.
pictures and then it
Yes.
goes into it. You can have it in your, I don't even know, in your phone or something, your past
Yes.
journals.
Yeah, he's starting to introduce a little more digital because a lot of people are ultra digital. I'm, I have one foot in both. I use my phone to help me keep track of my calendar, but I use my journal to help me keep track of my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I still need my computer. I was talking to my granddaughter today, and she said she got rid of her computer. She just uses her phone. This is my baby. This is where a lot of my life has been centered around in the past, and to a certain amount still. I can't get the same feeling with my phone as I get with my computer. I need the keyboard in front of me. I don't want to have to go like this.
Yep. It's important to figure out what does and doesn't make sense to you.
Yep. Yeah. And everybody is different. Everybody has to find out for themselves what works for them.
Yep.
Okay. I use the dictation phone on my app on my phone now. Just in my notes, if I have a thought, I'll just say it out and I get the text and then I can send that back to myself.
Nice.
Ah, nice
So
one.
it's just, yep,
That's
so if I'm walking
brilliant.
down, yeah, so I just send that. And I bullet journal almost identical to Heidi's. So I was going to come and say something, but yeah, just like that. I've gone back to a much simpler form, which is more like Ryder Carrol's, because I wanted to bring the intention and the follow through much closer without the processing in between. So I do the visual journaling separately. And so I just have the index pages and then just write what I need to do. And then yeah, because I don't want to go back and look at my to-do lists, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
The planning. So yeah, and I want to keep those moments and those memories and those beautiful pages that you have, and so that I have a visual journal. And that's what I've found, that this year I've gone back to doing that. I never did the flourishy embellished ones like what Sue was saying, because I don't consider them to be bullet journaling. Ryder Carrol had a specific I don't know, I'm losing words here, ideas in mind that would help, because he was moving away from that Dave Allen's getting things done thing, which was so popular there, but it was so rigid that a lot of creative people struggled with that. And so Ryder Carroll's, you build your days as they work for you. And I think it's worthwhile looking at his book before getting into any of those YouTube embellished things, which I think just come from a lot of Bible journaling. Not to match that, but that's a sort of different intention, different process, different thing, where you're reading, you're engaging, you're not. They're two different cognitive processes. It doesn't help, the way that yours does, to do that way, unless it does help you.
So just as a question, you said that you talk into your recorder device on your phone, and then it transcribes for you. How do you do that part?
Oh, I have an iPhone, and I think any of those. So if you look at the keyboard, so your little virtual keyboard, next to it, there'll be this little microphone, little symbol. Just tap that instead of the keyboard that goes, and just start talking.
Oh, look at you and your smartness.
And you
Me and my
yourself a
I just
Sorry,
learned
Justin.
boy.
Sorry,
Justin,
Heidi.
you just send yourself a text?
If I want to, yeah, it just saves it into my notes, and so I can just email that to myself if I want to. Or you just keep onto that same page. It's like a bullet journal. I don't have to have. It doesn't save it, unlike a voice recording app or a memo. It doesn't save everything as a different recording. It's just long notes. You can just have a single.
You got your own
notes
secretary.
page. I do. Yes.
That's fabulous. Well done.
It tends. You need to pronounce clearly, because sometimes it types things that you don't know what you meant.
I was just
They've
going
gotten
to
much
say,
better. They're much better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't come out, she climbed match you P shoe.
Oh, well, Machu Picchu. I've always wanted to climb the Machu Picchu. Yes.
But it's the way that it was transcribed from
I know,
what was said. Yeah.
Too funny. Yeah. But I also like the digital index, and I'll take a photograph, and because I do a lot of stuff digital and I spend way too much time wasting time there, is that I will send it as a PDF, and then it does an optical character recognition, so it changes it to text. But that's just me playing around, because I just like digital stuff a lot. And I was lucky, that's what I studied and trained in 25 years ago, and was very new. So I'm happy to be comfortable in that space and to use a tool. So
Some of us are very jealous.
Well, the thing that I found is having simpler, I don't know what to say. But the thing that I like about that is doing the digital tools is that I can do the things fast. So it leaves all the time in the world for me to play around with my art, stuff that I didn't have before, which is.
And you play around with your art. That's one thing I miss seeing you, because Bob doesn't have his nights anymore. So I'm so glad you joined us.
Oh,
yeah, it's fabulous.
I missed it. Yes, I'll be back in the forum. Just.
Yes, we miss all your wonderful creation
I miss you
there.
guys too. I miss you guys. So when I saw the time for this, I went, "Squee!" and so Rahul goes, "It's the uppers, is it?" I said, "Yeah." Shoot.
Yes, yes. Uppers.
The uppers.
The uppers getting
Mom's
down.
having mom's on one of her uppers. That's what he says at school, and they look at me strangely. I'm like,
That's fab. Oh, well,
Eight, thanks, Lisa.
oh no, thank you. I'm glad you came. I'm glad everybody came. Is there
Yes.
any other things that you can pick my brain to help whatever? I'm a resource. Go ahead. I'm not an authority. I'm just a resource.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yeah.
How about if we meet up again let's make it a week or two,
Okay.
and everybody can say what happened from tonight, where we went from here.
That'd be groovy.
Heidi, can we arrange that? Can we
Yeah,
do something
absolutely.
like this again?
Absolutely. LMNOP, put it in your bullet journal. I'll put it in mine.
I will. Do you want to just say 2 weeks from today, same time, same channel?
Works for me.
Sure.
Yes, please.
My
Sounds
first
great.
carry forward entry.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Sweet.
Heidi and Lisa, how did you come? I love that we can use the same meeting and password. So Lisa didn't have to make a new group. Did you two chat amongst yourself and go, hey, use this?
I
Because
asked
that might
permission.
be something I would be interested in too, maybe someday, versus Bob having to schedule all the things. This seemed so convenient.
It was Heidi being magnanimous. That's what it was.
Appreciate it.
It was Heidi having a Zoom account. So I just have it as a recurring meeting. So it's fine.
Right.
The only thing is I think I have to, I don't know if I think I can make, if I can't make it, it might be a problem.
Right.
But I think I can make, I don't know how to do that. I think I can make someone else the host.
Or if you can
It's
just
fine.
show up for 2 minutes and then bail.
Yeah. I got nowhere to go. I got no life. I'm here. We all have no lives, right? Right, Suru? This is how, like,
you can
we
become
bonded on those.
or you know, like a holodexy fake Heidi. Somebody can whip you up a digital Heidi to just
There you go.
then you can do
A blow up Heidi.
Hey now, we're getting off into the rough here.
Oh my goodness. Sunday challenge. Sunday challenge. Blow up Heidi.
No, sorry, we're doing the magic underwear this Sunday.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Oh, got to put that in my journal so I don't forget.
I told my daughter that because she is a costumer out in LA, and that cracked her up because she worked for a corseter in Chicago for some years. So anyway, anything's possible.
Well, we are creeping up on 8 o'clock here. So probably should, if anybody wants to go back and rewatch this, not have it go on and on and on. But this has just been wonderful. Thank you for being like kind to me.
Do you want us to not be kind?
No, it's just, you know, you're up in front of and you're presenting, and then there's kind of like that I'm standing up in front of the class with no clothes on mentality, kind of, you know. There's a little bit of like the anxiety that is just, it's just there because I know you guys, you're cool, but just there's like that little freak thought like somebody's gonna come and bomb, you know, rah, 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 and then, you know, so.
But like in my grid, you're just one in the circle. You're not up in front. You're just sitting in the group, raising your hand and going, this is my stuff. So
thank you guys.
I love the circle. Thanks, Sue. Yeah, the circle.
It's all about the circle.
It's all about the
I'm feeling
circle.
bad tonight because my husband cut a giant square out of my mandala black plastic garden. And so my mom, well, and we pulled up some things, but I'm going to make another mandala garden next year because it made me not go in a row. I had to go in an arc, and it
I like
was
it.
weird.
That's, yeah.
Do you have pictures of your mandala garden from this last year?
Pardon me? I only did it this spring just because I'm on this mandala kick. So I thought, I get bored, I'm going to do something different. And my garden is usually, it's not in raised bed, but it's in raised bed quadrants. So I think in squares of, I don't know, 4 by 6, whatever. And this year I just put a giant piece of plastic out that my husband happened to do. And I painted my seed. So I knew chard was here in old cheap paint until it got washed off. So I mean, it was just hit and miss. I may change up ideas, but it was pleasant. It was a relaxed way to garden.
Sounds so super. I love the idea.
Plant and pray.
Well, thank you guys very much for
Thank
letting
you,
me
Lisa
letting me
Marie.
Zoom for you.
You've inspired me.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Lisa Marie.
You did
Thank
good.
you. Great.